Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today is an extra special day because, we like to learn about not just fitness, not just bodybuilding. We like to get beyond that longevity. This is a fitness channel, heart health. What better way than to get on an absolute legend when it comes to heart health, cardiology, an actual doctor? Anyway, can you introduce yourself for the crowd, sir?
Thank you so much for having. I love the logo tigerfitness.com. It's amazing. I love the time, how it says and how the logo coming out. Well, my name is Anmol Kapoor. I'm a cardiologist practicing in Canada, in Calgary. And I do specialize into longevity medicine. Why? I guess because before people see a God, they end up seeing a cardiologist, one of us. And we try to keep them as long as possible on earth, so the God is never happy with us. So we are trying to play this game all the time with the God, keep people as long as on earth. And the God kept fighting with us all the time. Hey, I want these people coming to me. Come on, you get the bad people. So that I'm a longevity doctor by default. So I work in it, and my job is to make people live longer, the longest. So this way, we have a happy earth with all the beautiful humans living longer to maximum potential. So, as a cardiologist, my expertise in primary prevention, preventing the disease before the disease is happening, and if there is a disease, how we can better manage it. And what are the tools, what are the testings needed, and what are the right information? Because a lot of time people have a wrong information they access on the internet or they talk to their friends and the family. So my job as a cardiologist is to give them the fact. Facts are straight, they're truthful, so they may hurt sometimes, but it is for the betterment.
Well, that's fantastic. So, what made you get started into cardiology, specializing in what you do, heart health, and what made you go down this path of keeping people off of your operating table? My good friend Dr. Ovadia, his name's I Fix Hearts. His slogan is "Stay off my operating table." So, how did you kind of evolve into that? How did you get into this?
Well, essentially, all started by keeping people living longer. And the biggest reason people die is the cardiovascular diseases. And in during medical school, I was learning that there are some patients, it doesn't matter what we do, we give them medication, this back the stent got blocked or the medication didn't respond well, and they are having another heart attack recurrent happening. So this whole issue of recurrent heart attacks and many patients with the cardiomyopathy when the heart is failing but no blockages in the heart arteries. Some patients will come in with a sudden death, and what we're doing was just an ECG or a heart ultrasound, but never give an answer. And when a patient will ask me, Dr. Kapoor, why would I have a heart failure? I have no blockages in my heart arteries. I don't drink alcohol. Like, what happened? Like, why did my heart fail? And we used to say idiopathic. There's something called idiopathic cardiomyopathy. You know what idiopathic means?
Please tell me.
Idiopathic means doctor's an idiot and patient's pathetic. So doctor has no clue.
Oh, this is great. Oh man. Well, you got me there.
That's okay.
Oh,
so, so, so,
I
so,
did not
so that
expect that.
no, but that's true. That's what idiopathic means. Oh, well, in my vocabulary at least, because we have no idea. We want to sound very educated to the patient, and the patient feels, oh, I'm getting a big diagnosis, but it means a useless diagnosis. We have no answer. So, looking for an answer, looking for why we have the problem and why they're suffering, what more we can do better. So that motivated me more towards precision medicine, genomics, artificial intelligence, and understanding how we can bring the best from the DNA, best from the omics sciences, so I can help my patient population. From there, I can help people globally.
Wow. Okay, that helps. There's a lot of people lost a lot of trust in doctors over the last few years, and it's good to see that a lot of good doctors out there earning that trust back. I'm a fan of doctors. I when I go get my blood work, get my calcium scoring, I'm one of those guys. Bodybuilders tend to be really health conscious because we took some risks in the past. A lot of us did. And honestly, then you get older and you're like, I don't really want to meet God yet. As you said, I'd love to meet God one day, but just not today. Not today. So, speaking of the heart, what are some of the most common heart conditions you see in your practice?
I do see people, young people with blockages in the heart arteries. I do see a woman, either rupture of their coronary artery suddenly, they're exercising, it happens. I do see patients with heart failure, and as young as 25-year-old. I have no blockages in the heart arteries at all. Then I see patients with sudden death on the field, and they had some kind of collapsing on the field. Then they got revived and survived. We risk stratify them. So I see every kind of patient population, patient who had a bypasses, after bypasses, are they on the right medications? Many times people come to me, they say, Dr. Kapoor, I'm having this muscle aches and pains. Once I left hospital, they gave me this statin, that medication. They're good medications, but in some people, they cannot tolerate it, and
Mhm.
they come to see me for second opinion. So every kind of patient, and sometimes a patient with a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a disease you may have heard, when people on the basketball field or a soccer field, they
Yeah.
collapse suddenly. And what they found is the heart is very thick. The muscle is thick. The heart cavity should be big, becomes a very thin cavity. And the muscle is so big, like a muscle building. And it's a genetic condition. So a lot of time patients come in, look, my brother got it. Do I have the disease? My daughter got it. My other kids, I'm worried about it. And they bring their family. We do genetic testing for them. We do ultrasounds for them, and then help them to
Yeah.
stratify to tell them who may have a gene, who does not have a gene. So then we help them channel this system versus be worried about all the time. So you can imagine anywhere from a 15-year-old kid to a 90-year-old, 98-year-old. They all come to our practices, our clinics, and they access our services.
Okay. Have you seen an uptick in heart issues lately? There's a lot of things going around. You've seen the whole died suddenly thing. I don't want to go there. This isn't, we're not that kind of podcast. We're a fitness podcast. Have you seen an uptick in young, presumably healthy people having heart issues? And what do you think is causing that? It just seems, again, just a layperson looking in, and you see, like, LeBron James kid, and you see the soccer players all of a sudden, whether it was just popularized because the political environment at the time or whatever it is, but you see these cases of presumed young, healthy individuals having heart issues. Are you seeing an uptick in that? And if yes, what do you think the cause would be?
Well, I do see patients with a heart failure, young patients. I do see young patients with arrhythmias, and the risk for sudden death risk is out there. So especially in the sports side, there's something cool technology we have built called the Biosport, the biosport.com, and we're looking to
Okay.
commercialize it later on. So what it does, it looks at the DNA, the whole genome sequencing, and
Wow.
tells us any risk for sudden death, any arrhythmias. It also tells us any congenital heart disease they may have, it could be inheriting, or they could be passing on to their kids. So we get all this information, then we personalize the treatment plans for them, personalize the exercise programs for them. And I do see young patients sometimes coming with a premature heart disease, the blockage in the heart arteries. Why?
Yeah.
Because they have a genetic mutation. And those genetic mutations put them at high risk for developing coronary calcium score being higher, and these blockages are happening at much younger age. And other thing which I do believe is contributing is microplastic. We don't talk about much.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Let's dive into microplastics and heart. Go. Let's rock. I've never heard anybody
Yes.
else talk about this.
Yeah, so please don't eat plastic. Please don't drink plastic. Please don't do that. So that's a simple message I want to tell to everyone today is. And people say, look, I don't eat plastic. I eat normal food. Well, if you're cooking in a plastic cookware or if you're heating it, if you put the hot meal in a plastic container, plastic is coming in. If you're using a plastic water bottle and the water has been stayed there for a long time, in a heat, the plastic is coming in. If you're drinking from the Coke can, people say aluminum, but there's a plastic layer inside. Plastic is coming in. If you're using a canned tomatoes, and this is a metal outside, but inside is a plastic layer. Plastic is coming in. So
Huh.
plastic is coming in as simple as your Starbucks coffee cup, or coming in when you're heating it in a plane ride when the meal they give it to you. So what you should do is you should cut down your plastic intake as much as you can. Why? Because we see now microplastics getting deposited in the heart arteries, in the brain, in the neck arteries, we see microplastic deposit in the testicles even. So it's the biggest contaminant right now we have in our body, and we have to put an effort, because what it's doing is it is creating this calcification, this reaction in the body. The blockages are happening, and they're triggering the heart attack, triggering strokes, and causing impotence, mental health issues, and so many issues and challenges in the body. So let's all of us work towards cutting down the plastic intake.
That's fascinating. My wife just switched out all of our plastic Tupperware with glass, and we have our reheatable food containers. They're all the steel ones, the ones that keep things nice and warm all day. I'm starting to feel a lot better. But I've never heard someone talk about microplastics and the increase in
Yes.
heart issues. I've never heard that before. And I mean, what? So the mechanisms of action for that to happen. Let's say I'm consuming a high amount of environmental microplastics. Would that clog it? What reaction does that cause within the heart, within the body, within the testicles, within any organ, any feature that would cause those type of deleterious effects?
Just think of this way: plastic is a foreign body. Our body is not designed to handle microplastics. What does body do? The normal response to body is, whenever you give anything outside, anything foreign, body either try to reject it or try to accept it by covering it with the cells. So when the plastic goes inside the body in those arteries, what it does, it triggers a reaction, it harms the sensitive layer inside, and then suddenly the deposits start to happen with the blockages, and the way calcium get acquired, the way plastic also get acquired, and the more and bigger blockages start to happen. So when that is happening, this plastic also triggers inflammation at that level. It's a foreign body. Body's trying to reject it or trying to accept it and try to cover it. So that's a normal natural reaction. So what it does, it now start to kill the cells around it. There's a plastic there, and the cells in the testicles, or cells in the brain, in the carotid arteries, in the heart arteries, and eventually the cells become atrophic there. And this reaction continues to happen. And we never knew that before. Like, why some people develop blockages more than other people from the same family. So diet plays a huge role. This microplastic, we believe, plays a huge role. And it's been discovered last few years. It has been found in various autopsies now. Even
Yes.
lately, it's been linked to dementia in brain.
Wow. I knew about those studies. I never heard it explained like that. This is why I love having this podcast, because I learn. I can't listen to every podcast, but the amount of information I learned. This podcast is a selfish thing for me. Holy crap. That is insane. So getting outside of the plastics, which that was the most educational 10 minutes of my life, what would be, so heart disease is the number one cause of death, and we've had all these medical advancements, all this prior treatment, but obesity is on the rise. We got obesity above, actually overweight is 70%, obesity is above 40, but that data I believe is from 2017 or 18. So it's from before the lockdowns, where I bet we got a lot fatter. Like, people just got a lot fatter during the lockdowns. So why do you think that, despite all the medical advancements, despite all the knowledge we have, doctors like you know, people promoting good health, why do you think that it is still so prevalent?
Is a human habits. So it's very hard to change human habits. We have all this knowledge. We lack discipline. Like, look at you. Okay, you made amazing muscle mass by have a discipline. Being committing, you had a purpose. You decided, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to make a muscle. I'm committing myself to that. And you made a schedule. You follow the schedule and the routine, and you see a success. Most humans, we are we fall into these bad habits, and we have various patterns. We are happy, we are sad, we have peer pressure, we have a cultural pressures, and so many things come together. And whenever we feel the weak, whenever we feel the most stressed out, go back to the food, and that's where the choices should be the right ones. You can be stressful, you can be angry, but instead of taking the bad food choices, too much alcohol, too much trans fat food or fried food and other processed foods there. If you can pick up the right healthier choices, it'll make you feel better and happier, help you manage your stress much easier. I do believe that is the biggest contributor. We can have as much AI we want to have today. You can have AI in every home. You can have the smartest home. But in the end, the human who's going to eat that food, how do you make someone exercise every day? We know sitting is the next smoking. And we have
Mhm.
millions of people dying every year because of just sitting. They don't get up, they
Yeah.
don't walk. And it's a next smoking. It's killing us every day. So far, it is killing us. These chairs are killing us. But
Yeah.
what we should be doing is get them and start walking. How many people walk? How many people achieve 10,000 steps a day as bare minimum? So
Ah,
we have to change
yeah.
our habits. If we truly want to make a difference in our lives, if we want to cut down the heart disease, we have to be persistent and consistent. And if we can do that, we can live longer. We can delay the onset of diseases. We can delay the onset of any cancers. We can literally live longest, the happiest, healthiest, the longest of your life.
And take down societal burden. Now you're in Canada, so you have a national healthcare system. We have a healthcare system that it's quasi-national, right? Like, because what happens is people who use medical care the most, those are the ones with the most comorbidities, which is obesity, et cetera. When you look at Canada, you have a shared healthcare cost. So who's driving that healthcare cost up? Well, obese people, people who are unhealthy. So if society got just 10% healthier, think of the savings that would have for the entire economy, for the country, whether it's Canada, Australia, the United States. We all have at least a quasi shared payer system. We just do it through private companies who get rich off of us, right? You guys just make your government rich, which just we cut out the middleman, right? So I really believe that looking at that, if we could just get 10% better, 10% better, maybe go on an evening walk, we would be in such a better spot as society and make better health food choices. Now, I want to talk about ultra processed, highly palatable foods. Those are the things that are really kind of hot right now, right? Like, because people are talking about it. It's been shown to actually make people dumber. People score lower on IQ tests when they eat them. You know, when you eat these ultra processed, highly palatable foods, where do you put highly palatable, ultra processed foods? Where do you put that in the hierarchy of things that'll hurt your heart?
They are worse than smoking. They are worse than anything else. Seriously.
Wow, smoking?
Yes, they're worse than
Oh,
smoking. So if you're going to eat these highly processed foods and look at the ingredients, and if you don't understand the ingredients, don't eat it. As simple message I want to give it to the people. If you look at whatever, okay, they have a wheat, you know wheat. They have a flour, you know flour. They have a salt, they have this, you understand those things. And but the things they have added to keep this food palatable for you, or the cheese that's going in the burger in the fast food chain, you're getting it there, there's only 20% cheese, 80% all chemicals inside, most likely. So you have no idea. You think it's a cheese, and that is going to cause the heart disease and contributing to cancer and obesity.
mm-hmm.
It is messing up your microbiome in the stomach. If the microbiome in the stomach is not happy, it is going to contribute into less serotonin, less happy hormone in your brain, and you'll be feeling more sad, more depressed, and more addicted to those foods. So those foods are worse than smoking, in my opinion, because we think they are safe. We think we are feeding our kids the food. They are hungry, and look at these fries. Sometimes we buy those fries, the French fries,
Oh yeah.
or fried foods there. So look at the oil. They recycle the oil. Keep reheating it. Keep cooking in the same oil. It becomes dark black color like this sweatshirt I'm wearing it, and
Yeah.
people eat that oil every day.
And those are
What is the
just
oil going to do in your body? It's
it's
going to
broken.
clog up your arteries.
And just so people know, when fat gets to that point, it becomes literally a poison. When it's that broken down, when it's that degraded. Man, I'm glad to hear you saying this. So we have this movement in America that a lot of people, obviously there's the issues with RFK and his perceived vaccine views. But we have this Make America Healthy Again thing, and they just some fast food places are moving to beef tallow from seed oils, whatever it is. I honestly see it as an overall positive, even if you don't agree with what RFK does, just simply people looking at food now, right? Like
Yes.
simply identifying that we have a problem in this country. We have an obesity problem. We have a problem with autism rates going through the roof. My thing is, okay, don't ban foods. That's un-American, right? America's like live and let live, but we need to have this data, and unfortunately the big food, the lobbying groups, they keep these things going. I'm sure it's the same in Canada. You get politicians got to get elected somehow. Someone's got to contribute to their campaign, and they're all sellouts. But we're in a situation now where I think America is more and more educated on the foods they're taking in. It's just a matter of them listening and taking in this information. Even if RFK is 10% right, again, what I say, if we improve by 10% in any measure. So looking at that, do you guys have anything similar in Canada where you have a movement towards more healthy? And I mean, your ingredients are better than ours. We were doing RFK actually points to Canada. You take the same product and we have triple the ingredients as the same Canadian product. Is there a similar movement going on north of the border here?
Well, it is. It is. It's just because of being a public healthcare system,
Yeah.
Canadians end up living longer than Americans. So we have a longer lifespan in Canada, just
Yep.
because people have an access to primary healthcare services free of cost. Yes, taxpayers paying it. There is some delay to access services sometimes. There is some harm done because of that. But in the end, people can access the lab services. People can access the basic
Mm-hmm.
healthcare services, so they can make their life better. So, from a Health Canada perspective, we are working in food guide, and it talks about on a plate what kind of food we should be eating. We should have a grain. We should have a whole fruits and vegetables. How many times we should be having a day? What is a healthier weight? So there's a kind of food guide out there, so people can go and start to follow that. And there is a movement happening not from today. It's been happening for last few decades. It
That's
keeps
fantastic.
updating. It keeps changing based on the society becoming more multicultural. They're adding more multicultural foods to that. Obviously, lobby groups are everywhere. They try to push their foods to be included in the food guide.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time. So, but the awareness is there. We do have less chemicals as compared to American foods coming in, but when you come to Europeans, we are not that good. So look at when you
Yeah.
go to Europe, they get a less chemicals in their food. The more thing they have to declare, GMO foods are banned there, and many things you can trust when the data coming in. But it's hard to trust the data what we see in Canada or in America sometimes. Yes, we have a good milk supply versus USA in Canada, and we have a very good fruits and vegetable supply coming in. We have a more disclosures there. We
Yeah.
understand it, and there's more awareness about it. We should be eating more local. So if you're transporting food from further far away and eating less local food, it essentially has been preserved with these chemicals, and those hyper processed foods comes in play. So the more local, more closely grown foods you can eat every day, the better it is for you and for the environment.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I live in Tennessee. We got farms all over the place. I get my beef from I can literally go point out my cow, right? So it's a beautiful way to live. I agree with that. Is your going to Canada's food guide? So our food pyramid is upside down. We have ultra processed foods as like the number one source. Like, so is your food guide a bit better written than the food pyramid that we have here?
Yes. Yes. So we don't have a
You
pyramid.
can't be
We have
worse.
yeah, it's a good one. And my wife is a dietitian, so she will not agree 100% what has been written there, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good start. It's very layman
Okay.
terms. And it simplifies things. It explains in a plate, like if you have a plate. So when you're putting a food, so it
Yeah.
divides and simplifies people understanding. Pyramid is very difficult to understand for anyone. But if you have a plate and you're just taking a circle and cutting a
Yeah.
circle into four different quadrants, and then putting food according to quadrants, and then you know the type of serving you should be eating every day.
Where does poutine fit into that? Just kidding. You guys in your
Well, it's
poutine.
not it's not a kind of food guide at all.
I've been to Canada so many times and I've never tried poutine. I just can't bring myself to do it. And I'm not really
Me
missing out.
neither.
I've never eaten at Biscuit Bill or Bojangles and I live in the South. So just
Thank
no
you. Don't
funny.
do that.
Yeah, funny tip. Bojangles is the number one restaurant in Roatan, Honduras.
Wow.
I don't know how the hell that happened, but it did. That's fascinating. So you're married to a dietitian. What a beautiful marriage, right? You got the
Thank
guy
you.
who fixes the hearts, and you got the woman who prevents people from having the heart attacks. I love it. That's a match made in heaven. That is
Thank you.
awesome. That
Thank
that
you.
is
Thank you.
great, man. I'm really so moving on to well. Let's dive into something a bit controversial. And if you don't want to answer this, that's fine. So we're seeing there's people saying that both the virus, the COVID virus, and the vaccine are creating issues with the heart. And personally, I think there's so many factors out there. I'm not going to say anything's doing. I read the data. The data is hard to decipher because there's obviously with data, there's going to be some that go this way, some that go that way. In your opinion, and again, don't have to answer this, is COVID itself a factor in COVID, the actual virus? Did it increase the heart risks or the heart disease prevalency? And as a follow up, do you think the vaccine was net neutral, or that it might have had on certain populations a negative effect on heart health?
Thank you for asking the question. Uh, I'll start with the facts. So I've been practicing cardiologist in Calgary, in Canada. So if your question is, Dr. Kapoor, did you see a lot of patients after COVID coming to you from more heart disease issues are happening linked with viruses or certain patient group? I did not.
Okay.
I have not seen a huge uptake of the patient or certain category of the patients that could be potentially linked to it. Okay, so I've not seen anything
Okay.
totally explosion of heart disease, explosion of heart failure, because we have four cardiac imaging centers in Alberta, two in Calgary, one in Edmonton, one is in Medicine Hat. We do so many ultrasounds a day, so many heart tests a day. We have not
Yeah.
seen the people coming in. Like we have to see to believe it, right? Because I have
Yeah.
not seen that. So secondly, yes, there was harm done to the patients. There were patients who got heart failure or myocarditis, some complication. Yes, it was done. And we could have been better. So, like any other clinical study and the trial, we always do studies to figure it out who potentially will have the side effect, what in a patient population we should advise them not to have it. But at that time, we have to go back. We were all panicked. We were all
Yeah.
afraid. I remember when I would come home, my wife will make my clothes, make me undress in the garage, and she will not make me come inside the home. Because
Yeah.
you're coming from the hospital, you're coming from the clinic. I
Mhm.
don't want you in my home with the same clothes. People were afraid at that time. You can
Yeah.
imagine. So at that time, yes, if you go back those times, my argument with my clinical colleagues was that we should have an informed consent. We should
Yes.
let people be aware of it because they're taking a vaccine or a drug or a test. Doesn't matter what it is. We should inform people. If people are informed, they can take their call. Everyone is educated. They're not going to take a
Yeah.
wrong call if they understand that. But in a panic, I think that's where the biggest failure of the science was that we panicked, we threw out the logic out there. So that's the biggest mistake happened. We should
Yeah.
have kept the consent form. We should not have been strict about these mandates, and we should have let people pick and choose, have been well informed that way, or at least we should have told them, look, guys, we don't know. We don't know a lot about COVID. We don't know much about the vaccines either,
Yeah.
but it seems like a solution. But what do you think? You want to take it, you can take it. If you don't want to take it, don't take it. But at least the informed decision making, informed consent. They understand that. That's where the biggest mistake happened. So yes, people who got vaccination, some of them they have the side effect. So your question could be, how would I have known who will have the side effect? What we have
Yeah.
learned is since that the biggest clinical trial happened in real time in our lifespan, millions and billions of people got exposed to these vaccines. What vaccines does it, or what any virus or any drug does it, all of us are born with the whole genome DNA we inherited
Yeah.
from our parents. All of us have some kind of mutation in our body. We just don't
Yeah.
know which mutation I have or you have unless I've downloaded my whole genome and someone has explained it. So we knew that before COVID vaccination some people are getting heart failure, some people are getting premature heart disease. We know that. Why? Because they have a genetic condition linked with that.
Yeah.
So what COVID vaccine did, or what COVID did, like any other virus does it all the time. Normal flu virus or vaccine, or a normal any other virus that goes in our body, we take it from in a plane traveling or talking to our friends and family. And
Yeah.
what these viruses do, they trigger the gene reaction in our body. We just don't know. And this reaction then contributes into heart failure, blood clotting potentially, strokes, brain hemorrhages, or whatever could be linked to it. Essentially, a gene is there, the mutation is there, the gene was not causing any crime. Something comes in and then triggers that reaction, and now we have this disease in that person. That's what vaccine or viruses end up doing it sometimes. So not everyone got it, but some people were unlucky. And it happened, unfortunately. Yes, we could have done in a controlled manner. It happened in a panic situation. So that's where the harm
Mm.
got done in that regard. So overall, vaccines are good. Vaccines
Oh
should
yeah.
be offered to people because we eliminated many diseases globally. Polio, look at that. We have eliminated measles in many countries, mumps, and many of those, the kids are being successful, happier, healthier living. We have the longer, the biggest lifespan trajectory we had it until COVID hit. Then many countries start to go downward trend, including USA. I do believe we should not discard our good science. We should always learn from science and keep asking the question the way you asked question today.
Yeah. How can we do better? So for me personally, my doctor's like, you don't need it. It's too much. It's more risk than reward. And where I live, we didn't have in Tennessee, we don't have mandates. So it was fine. Like other than flying with a mask, I really didn't. COVID didn't happen in Tennessee. Like we took that year off. We were like, we're just gonna do our thing. School stayed in session. Like, and our rates again, it's when you saw the initial videos of people falling over in the street, like whatever, however true those videos were coming out of China, I don't know. But yeah, I completely agree. All my children have all their childhood vaccines. None of them got the COVID shot. I'm to this point, I don't know if we have the gene. So they're good. Everything's good. We ended up making the right decision for us. But again, it's an individual. Like you said, it's an individual situation. And the jury's still out on all I know is that right now, I mean, we're in a better place. I'll just say that. And we
Yes.
live and learn, live and learn. And the last time we had a pandemic like this was, at least in the North Americas, correct me if I'm wrong, was the early 1900s with the flu, right?
Yes.
That was the,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and a very similar trajectory, right? They were wearing masks back then. There was public panic, but the one thing they didn't have that we do is Twitter and Facebook. So you take that initial implosion of complete just oh my goodness, just going out of your mind. And then you amplify it with social media. We were the Spanish flu on steroids, not Spanish flu, but yeah, it was Spanish flu on steroids.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating. So going into, I really appreciate you answering that. It helped me a lot and helped me learn a lot as well. So going into actually actionable things, what are the top 3 lifestyle changes people can make to significantly reduce their risk of heart disease?
Make sure you get up. Your sofa is the coffin. So you make sure that you get up more frequent from your sofa, and as often you can do it in a day. It'll help you stay longer, healthier, less chance of obesity, less chance of heart disease, hypertension, cancers. Number two, throw away all your microplastic containers or the food that is you're cooking in, and trying to pick up again glass or steel, trying to go back to the roots. So cut down as much as microplastic you can. Third thing you should do is throw away all your hyper processed, highly palatable food. Go back to the basics, your parents. So start cooking your own food. Know your food, where it comes from. And when you're putting in your mouth, you should know where it comes from, what does it have. Not just because you're hungry and you're watching a TV or watching a game and you start eating just without looking at it. Look at it. If you understand the ingredients, and they make sense, at least 80% of it to you, eat it. If they don't make sense to you, don't eat it.
Yeah, I mean, this is refreshing. So let's 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 go deeper into diet. So obviously you live with a dietitian, so she's gonna be yelling at you about diet stuff all day, like I yell at my wife about studies on hypertrophy, right? Like my wife is so tired of hearing about me talk about muscle growth and programming. She probably hates me. I'm surprised she's still here. So delving into diet, if you were to design, like you have the Mediterranean diet, low carb diet, plant-based diet, if you were to say, okay, this is these, and it doesn't have to be any one of these, this is the style of diet that I would recommend to you for the optimal heart health, realizing that most people aren't going to follow any specific diet 100%. Here's what I would recommend you eat for your best heart health.
I would say Mediterranean. And there's one fascinating study happened just published last week. And in the study, what they looked at is people who are using butter versus more olive oil or plant-based oils. And when they replace that from simple butter to these plant-based oils, they have less chance of having heart disease and heart attacks. They end up living longer, just with one thing getting it out from in that study
Wow.
cohort population. So if you're going to follow a lifestyle, follow a Mediterranean lifestyle. What is it? It has a whole grain, whole food, olive oils, and plant-based oils coming more in your diet than anything else. And personally, I try to follow that too. So we do have fresh fruits and vegetable in my diet every day. At least I try to make sure five types of fresh fruits and vegetable come in my diet every day. I make sure I don't drink juice. I eat fruit. That's very important. And because I get a fiber
Same.
with that, it lowers my
Yes.
cholesterol. It lowers my inflammation. It lowers the chance of constipation, less chance of getting colon cancer. So this, with the more fiber I'm taking, the longer I was going to live, the less chance of me taking medications. And I make sure that I hydrate myself well. Lots of people don't even drink enough water. So it's important to drink 2 to 3 liters of water for your body, for hydrate yourself. And From a meat perspective, if you're going to pick up a meat, pick up a white meat. Chicken breast probably is a
Okay.
better choice than the red meat. So we understand the red meat may not be as helpful from a heart disease perspective. Some patients, we saw the data in some research that it was causing inflammation. It may not be the population level, maybe in that small cohort patient population there. You're going to pick up meat, pick up more white meat. If you're going to pick up a fish, pick up salmon. More colorful fishes are better than the white fishes. So the choices are there, and that's what our lifestyle has been become. I'll tell you one funny story. A long time ago, when I came first to Canada, from Russia, and my wife was vegetarian. And there at home, she was drinking skim milk, fresh fruits and vegetables, and she had a lifestyle made. And I'm coming from Russia. I'm a guy who likes certain kind of foods. So I start to follow what my wife was feeding me. Eventually, you want to have a fight at home, so you start to eat slowly by slowly. So one time I was going to a medical conference and driving, and I stopped on the way at McDonald's. I said, I'm going to have a burger. It's been months since I had a burger. And I'm going to drive and eat it. At least I'm once upon a time, I can have fun. So I took it. I started driving, going towards conference to Banff, mountainous area near Calgary. So by the half away, I started to feel my stomach being upset. So I wasn't happy. So I called her. I said, I'm angry with you. She said, why? I said, because you messed up my stomach. So now the food I used to enjoy, so I cannot enjoy anymore.
Yeah. So, I always pack my food. If you're not prepared, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And I always pack my food. I always feel great when I travel. I know where to eat, where to get those good foods that don't have the nasty things in them. So that's diet, Mediterranean diet. I've been saying that's the healthiest diet for years. People call me stupid. They say low carb's the healthiest now. I feel low carb has some applications,
Yes.
tremendous applications for certain things. But I think for the generally healthy person who's not battling with maybe diabetes, maybe other things, that could be an application. Seizures, another application. But for most people, Mediterranean diet, I made the simple switch of instead of putting butter on my toast in the morning, I drizzle olive oil in it, put a little sea salt on
Perfect.
top. Simple changes like that go a long way. So, exercise and its impact on heart health. Is there a specific type of exercise you'd like to see for heart health?
From a heart health, now we used to say you do cardio, cardio, cardio. Not anymore. So what the data we have seen, what I would recommend people is that do 15 minutes of cardio and 15 minutes of muscle. You have to have a muscle reserve. So when you're getting old, it's your bank, it's your savings. If you don't
Mhm.
have enough muscle when you're old, you will start to have back pain, knee pain, hip pain. You're going to fall, get yourself injured. So it's very, very important when you exercise, make sure half the time you dedicate towards muscle building.
Yeah, I was actually I strained my hip coaching because I'm too old to be doing what I'm doing. Um, so I'm actually going to PT, and I think it was something crazy like after a fall, you have like an 18-month lifespan. I forgot the exact stat, but falling for the elderly is life ending in a lot of
Yes,
cases. So,
that's true.
alongside strength training, Dr. Peter Attia talks about this balance training.
Yeah.
You know, I always like to do single leg movements. I do single leg Romanian deadlifts. My theory is if at 80 years old I could do an SLRDL with 100 pounds in my hand, then I am very safe from falling and dying. And I'll die a much more fun way than falling. That's not a fun way to die. Like there's much more fun ways to die than falling. That's like, and then it's a miserable agony of a death because you
Yes.
can't move. You
Yep.
break your hip when you're old. That's a life sentence.
It
It
is. It
just
is true.
is.
It is true. Yes.
Yeah. Supplements. I'm not. Look, I understand there's risk. So for example, my doctor, every male over 40, he just prescribes them statins. That's his thing because, and I'm okay with it. I'm not writing him off as a bad doctor because looking at the data, it does decrease morbidity risk by a crazy amount, like 30 to 40% in the population. So it makes sense if you're a general practitioner, not a specialist like you, but you're seeing 100 people a day or whatever they have to see with their HMOs. And you're just like, I want to make this guy live and not have, any heart issues. I want his calcium scan to be all right. And it does have the ability to decrease your arterial buildup, arterial plaque buildup. Um, so I understand I can't take statins. I tried it, and my myopathy, my muscle soreness was insane. I couldn't walk. Like I thought I was training hard, but I wasn't. I was just having a statin side effect, which, as you said, my genome, my genes, a lot of people doesn't. I think it's like 10 to 20%
Yeah.
present with that, if I'm not mistaken. If you're looking at supplements, there's some new crazy supplements out there with great data like nattokinase, citrus bergamot, niacin, even for HDL. You got vitamin K, vitamin K2 for heart, arterial plaque, heart health. When you're looking at are there any supplements as a heart doctor, heart specialist that you would recommend people take for heart health?
I wish there is a supplement right answer I can give it to you. Everyone is individual, like you mentioned. We have to be understand what we are lack of it, what we're deficient of that. So deficiency causes a disease, and most people are deficient of vitamin D. I do recommend people should be taking at least 1,000 units a day. Why? Because it's been linked to heart disease,
Mm.
dementia, cancers, and many different things along the way. So that's number one as a supplement. Then what else more you can add on? Some people talk about these days curcumin. Curcumin is showing some benefit as an anti-inflammatory. Heart attack is an inflammation disease. So when someone has a heart attack, it triggers it because of microinflammation they have. I don't have a data that a curcumin can be helpful, but it could be. It could be potentially. So resveratrol from a red wine, like extracts, right?
Resveratrol. Yep.
Yeah, resveratrol. Yeah, so it could be helpful. It can be tried in some patients, but it all depends who's the right patient. I don't know. And we look at the population level data, we miss it. So we always pick up a certain cohort, we find a benefit, other cohort doesn't find a benefit. If we have to take it, yes, you can add on in a safe manner. You can add on coenzyme Q10 has some role to play
Yeah.
as an antioxidant. There is some data showing it. It's essentially what happened in cardiology. All the clinical trials usually look at it people who have a heart failure, they're already at the end stage of disease, and now we're giving these supplements, hoping they're going to feel better. It's too late for them. Same way, diabetic patient has a peripheral neuropathy, and we are not going to recover from the nerve damage that has been done. Doesn't matter how much supplements we're going to use it. The damage is done. Yes, when you're healthier and you want to stay healthy as the longest, So that's where the role comes in play in supplement longevity medicine side. So we are reading more about NMN now, so that has some role to play. But I'll make
Oh,
sure that we are not using too much of NMN either, because if we have an underlying cancer or potential undiagnosed cancer, it could potentially be harmful. So knowing is important. Before we start taking blindly supplements because it's a Dr. Kapoor's brand and Dr. this brand, before I start taking those brands, I tell everyone, let's look everyone as an individual, have more personalized information, understand the micronutrients. Are you absorbing, not absorbing? But if you're of a certain age, say age of 40 or 50, you should add vitamin B12. Why? Because absorption goes down. It has been linked with the dementia risk. If you start to take higher doses of that, can be very helpful in that regard.
yeah. It also makes your pee very yellow. So just heads up, if you
That's
have
true.
fluorescent urine, you are not, you're probably okay. You just had a bolus of vitamin B12. That's what I have a multivitamin pack, and people are like, why is my pee yellow on my vitamin B12? It just does it. It's beautiful in that manner. Yeah. Look, man, I'm all for any, and so just to kind of cap it off, getting into the term biohacking, right? Like it's been overused. It was coined. It's kind of, a lot of it's kind of hokey. A lot of it's weird. Like a lot of people, if people are out there sun tanning the area between their testicles and their butthole, it's a thing. It's a thing. Okay, I know you're a professional, but I have to tell you what some of our listeners have heard. Okay, we're just trying to educate them. If you're looking at the word biohacking from a medical standpoint, I'm going to define it as simple ways to make simple changes to make it more likely that you live another day. Let's call it that, or you age gracefully. What would be some biohacking tips that you'd give to people?
First of all, I disagree with the word biohacking or hacking
So do
anything.
I.
So
Yeah.
exactly. So hacking is essentially means that I'm attacking some system and I'm taking over or somehow able to go inside it. So there is nothing you can hack in your DNA. Your DNA is a DNA, and you're not going to hack your DNA. You can stop the gene inhibition with medications or gene editing, CRISPR, etc. But you're not going to hack your DNA. It's impossible. Okay, that's number one fact up there. So yes, you can implement the strategies, the gene expression side, how the genes are going to express in your body, and the type of food you eat. You can reduce the expression chances, or you can control the expression in some cases. Yes, that's possible. Another terminology I don't like is the biological clocks. The clock word is a wrong word. So yes, biological aging should be. We are aging faster sometimes. Some people are aging slower. But clock means going to run out of the battery one day. It's running out of time. That's the wrong way of looking at that also. So there's no true biohack proven that is going to be help anyone. There's no true biological clock that has been consistent, proven, and widely used by everyone as a medical standards. So if I would recommend someone in the context there, I'll say start by doing a telomere testing, know your biological age. So this way you understand how truly you are aging faster. And telomeres tell us a lot about the risk for cancer in the future. If I'm older, based on my telomeres, the risk for getting cancer in the future is very high for me. So I have to pay attention to that. So I start doing the strategies of supplements or exercise, no smoking, no alcohol, sleeping on time, making attention to that, make sure my telomeres are good and young. Then I can look at methylation side, the targeted genes, the modifiable genes, if they are getting impacted, and also looking at the gene expression in that level. So if you can understand the transcriptomics, the gene upregulation, gene downregulation, then I can make some recommendations from exercise program, medical program, nutrition program. But if I don't have that data, if I'm going to just biohacking blindly, quote unquote, it is just shooting in dark again. You have no data. You don't know what your body is. You are getting some basic parameters, cortisol, some hormone checked out. You think it is count to the biohacking. It's not. You truly want to do a hack in that area. You need to understand the gene expression, how the genes are upregulating, downregulating. Then you have intervention personalized made for you. Then you follow serially and see if they're making a difference or not making a difference.
So biohacking is, I think it's marketing, man. I'm just being real. I think it's just a way to sell product, but
I
that's
agree
just me.
100% with you.
That's
Exactly.
just me. So I'm fascinated. Like this is probably, I don't want to do this, might be the most I've learned in a under 60 minutes in a long time. And you are a very smart person. You bring things to light for people to be able to understand in lay terms that people can apply to their lives. The advice you've given us on both exercise and diet, and even working for yourself with supplements and medications is phenomenal. Your insight on the pandemic was refreshing. I love to hear that. I love to hear a nuanced approach to that because people either fall into this or that category. You're right there, like, hey, we needed to do something, maybe went a little too hard. Need to figure that out for the future, and that's respectable. So you said something at the beginning about some website. Is that your website and how people can support you and your work?
Yes, we do have company BioArrow, BIOARO. So arrow is then basically an arrow, like when you are shooting a target.
BIOARO,
Yeah, yeah.
Bio Arrow.
BioArrow,
Okay.
bioarrow.com. And other website is called Biolongevity. It's a longevity with biology. So
Bio Longevity.
biolongevity.com. Yes. Yeah,
So
we
Bio Longevity and BioArrow.com. And
yes.
that would be how they support you.
Yes, they can join in. They can contact us. We have social media accounts. They can follow me at Anmol MD on Instagram. They can follow these websites and the portals, and the information they will get there is will be the right information. There'll
Are
be
you on
no
X as well or just Instagram?
well, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on X, we have a presence there. We have,
Okay.
I believe, on Snap presence. So the common platform. So people can either YouTube channel, people can follow. It's got
You
Forever
would
Young.
crush it on Twitter, dude. Like your takes would crush it. You would do so well on Twitter.
Well, guys, thank you so much for your positive feedback.
People would
My
love
job
you,
is to
man.
give you.
You're way
Thank you,
too
thank you.
you're so smart. You need to get your message out there. We need more doctors like you. And if you don't know Dr. Ovadia, you guys will get along great. His handle is at iFixHearts on Twitter. He's a great guy. He's just like you, except he's on the carnivore side. I'd love to see you guys debate. He's
I'd
actually
love to one day join in and then I'll present my data. Let him present his data.
Oh, that'd be beautiful, man. Well, I encourage everyone to follow you. I'm going to follow you and make sure I know everything about. And I'd love to have, there's so many more topics we can get to. And if you would do us the honor of coming back on, that'd be fantastic. We'd much appreciate that.
I'll be honored to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow the good doctor right here. He deserves it. Go to his websites. If he's selling something, buy it. All right. We need more doctors like this, preaching the good, fighting the good fight, preaching the good word, and just making society better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.